Oh man, I gotta tell you, like we're lucky we didn't lose this game. Thank goodness for that. And I think a key component to us almost losing was not being able to stop the run game. Because it was like, for those that tune in on Alabama The Voice College Football, you'll hear Jeffrey talk about this a lot. We have to stop the run game. We almost lost. We got a huge win. Our defense stepped up. But again, we got to do better at stopping the run game. I mean, I'm looking at the total rushing yards. We got 213 rushing yards we allowed tonight.
Absolutely.
Oh man, it was just good grief. And we
Give me
got a
one
Hey
second.
Jackson and Richie. What a win from Bama tonight from Adam Lemarize. We appreciate
Absolutely. That's my buddy from Wager Wire with me and my guy. Very much appreciate him and everything he does. So, absolutely.
yeah, I've been on his show after the Alabama Florida State postgame show week 1. I remember him. He's pretty cool.
Absolutely, my guy. He always joins Doreen and Minnie on Sunday nights for their show, so you'll see him there. Um, I thought it was a good game from South Carolina's side. Credit to them; they played extremely hard. They were at home, chip on the shoulder. Their back was against the wall. They knew that if they lost this game, which they did, they were going to look at Shula and possibly Beamer. They're 3-5 now. I didn't think we particularly ran the ball quite well. And I noticed that against Tennessee last week, as I said it coming into South Carolina today. If you don't run the football well, you're going to have a hard time getting the plays off you need to because it'll be on the shoulders of Simpson. And there was multiple times it was on the shoulders of Simpson in this game. Thank goodness we have a good quarterback and Simpson's really good. 24 of 43, 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's what we need, especially from our guy, another 200 plus passing yards to help his Heisman candidacy just keep on going. But for Jam Miller and Daniel Hill, you're going to have to run the football better. And I don't know what they're doing, but they're going to have to seriously pick it up because not running the football is going to get you in trouble against better defense.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Because, it won't hurt us against LSU or Oklahoma that much. Like, it could hurt us more against Oklahoma than LSU. But I could see where this could hurt us against Auburn. Because Auburn's going to see us at 10-1 or at 9-2 going into this game. And they're going to want to do everything in their power to pull off that upset. And they got a playbook on how to stop us tonight. And I kept thinking about like the clutch throws that Simpson was making tonight. That game-winning touchdown for Bernard. How about that?
Absolutely. It was a great touchdown by Bernard, great play call. One of the things that shot us in the foot today was the fact that the plays weren't working for you. You kept on playing running the same plays. And I said that what Grubb has to do is learn that if the plays aren't working, I need a backup plan. I thought some of the shorter plays where Simpson was getting the ball off quick, short, instead of trying to force it long, was a lot better than long because you're able to get more plays and you're able to get more yards that way. I also thought that, once Grubb realized that, hey, if I just play simple, we'll be fine. That's what got us in the on the right track, especially the fumble. Once they fumbled the football and we recovered it late, that's when I knew that if we get the ball back, we'll either have a chance to catch a touchdown or kick the game-winning field goal with Connor Talty, and we'll have a chance to win. But South Carolina fumbling the football was one of the sole reasons we got that momentum swing late and were able to win the game. Otherwise, we'd be still gritting it out. And you never want to grit it out.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No doubt about that. And I was, well, I don't care about the ads. I'm looking at the stat. I'm looking at some more of the stats. We got outgained in total yards by 8 yards. 333 total yards in offense by South Carolina, and we had 325 total offensive yards.
Absolutely. They outrushed us 111 to 72. Yards per play were 4.9 to their 4.8. They had one more first downs than we did, 18 to 17. And then on third down, the third down efficiency 8 to 16 and 6 to 17 for them. So unfortunately for fourth down efficiency, they had us beat going 2 for 2 and we were 2 for 3. And then in total plays, they averaged 70 to our 66. So that's not really something that you want to have happen moving forward, especially the rush yards. The fact that they outrushed us 111 to 72 tells you what you need to work on, and that's a run game. Moving forward, especially against Oklahoma team that's well poised now, especially with a better running back and a better quarterback and a better defense. That's a big game. You don't want to, you're lucky you get that game at home, but you don't want to tap the brake, especially against an Oklahoma team that's, marked improved from last year. And then LSU, after this week, we get the bye, and then we go and play LSU at home. It's going to be a night game. Nussmeier can play. So if you're not running the football against LSU, they could shock. And that's my biggest fear is moving forward. We're not going to run the ball. And then to your point on Auburn, Auburn's always going to make it a game. It doesn't matter what record Auburn has going into the final game of the season. It's always going to be a game. It's always going to be electric. It's always going to be chippy. They don't like us. We don't like them. It's always going to be no. I like a couple Auburn guys that I know, but there's a difference in that. Just the team itself, there's a difference. They don't like us. We don't like them. They're going to want to beat us to spoil the season. We're going to want to, just make the case for Freeze a lot more. That's just what it is. The rivalry goes back year after year. So how does Bama get the job done before, postseason? Maybe the SEC championship. You never know. But there's a lot of question marks to be answered moving forward. But I thought it was a nice comeback win today.
Well, and I keep thinking about what was going on in the fourth quarter, and that was a huge touchdown that we got right there, and then that 2-point conversion to Cuevas. Like, what was going through your mind when you were seeing Alabama trailing 22-14?
What was going through my mind was the boys aren't playing the kind of ball they know they can play. And what they did was they went into William Bryce this afternoon and said, this is an overlook. It reminded me of Oklahoma last year. The difference is you actually have a better team compared to last year. You're on the road. They're going to be loud. They're going to want to rush the field. They're going to want to make a statement. That's just what. And then Bama goes into the game and goes, "We're much better than them," and it didn't really show. I mean, to be fair, we got the win today, but I still think that was equivalency to Florida State, minus the fact you walked into the game and won, or walked into William Bryce and got the job done. You were outran. You were out first down by one. The fourth down efficiency was better than our fourth down efficiency. And it's nice to know that we were able to get the job done, but total yards and rushing yards we were beat. We were just absolutely beat. And what even bothers me is we were getting outran by a backup running back in Oscar Adaway. He's not their Faison's their starter, but Oscar Adaway, the fact that he was running better than anything I had seen all season is a major concern. It made me wonder what kind of scheme was Womack putting up today. And I've never questioned Womack. I think he's a solid guy, and I've always been high on Womack as a coordinator for us. But games like this make you question it even more. And if you start overlooking some of these games, especially when you go to Jordan Hare at the end of the season, what's that going to look like? Because you'll have a couple weeks to get it going, but then you're back on the road and it's not going to be easy for you. But it just 22-14, I was like, yeah, this is not good. And then there was a momentum swing, and we found a way.
Oh man, and I didn't get nervous as I should have when I saw this stat in the first quarter where South Carolina outgained us 128 to 11 yards in the first quarter because like that pick six in the first quarter, I was like, okay, we're gonna be all right. This is gonna be another dominant day for the Crimson Tide. Yeah, because like our defense has just been huge. Like it's just been a game changer. Because like when we saw Deshaun Jones, like how about that interception? Like how about that? I don't want anybody forgetting about that play. Like that was awesome.
Absolutely. So, well, what I said last week was that what I told Jeffrey and you guys on Thursday night was, every game we found a way. There's always been something that the other team does that gives you a momentum swing. And last week was the Joey Aguilar pick six that went 99 yards. Once that happened, they had to play catch up. Today, the difference was the final fumble that they had when they got the ball. Once they fumbled the football, they had to play a bit of catch up after that because not only do they not get the ball and get to try to drive and score, but they turn it back over late, and that's not something you want to do. So, there's a lot of question marks still for the team, but I think we did a good job towards the stretch of finding out that hey, we're a bit better than them, and if we play the thing. But I said it and I'll say it again. The only guy on the pass rush that has really improved to me is Pierre. Everybody else looks like they're dancing with the stars, and it's a bit concerning. I mean, it's what it is, brother. It's one of those deals that's like anytime you have a chance to be on. I said it after we played Florida State. Anytime you get a chance to wear the crimson jersey, you have an opportunity to change your life and make a statement. And the only guy that's really stepped up for me in terms of a pass rusher has been Pierre, and we saw it today. That's another factor that the team's going to have to figure out is who else wants to be that guy on defense that can carry the load if Pierre has a bad day or something. That's the biggest thing. Lenoris Sellers is a very physical and tough quarterback. He's my favorite non-Alabama quarterback besides Sam Levitt at Arizona State, and he played a very good game. But we found a way and just found an opportunity to get the job done. But it was, just the pass rush has got to clean up too.
Oh, agreed. I was glad to see Keon Keeley stepping up on Saturday today as well. Like that was a huge play they was making, sacking Lenore Sellers.
Absolutely. Very excited to see him do his job today. Very excited to see a lot of the guys on defense do their thing. Keenan had a good afternoon. Pierre had a good afternoon. Keelan Key Keel had a good game. A lot of these guys, should be a game where you go back and look at film and go, what was I doing right and what was I doing wrong, and take accountability because LSU's not going to be South Carolina. They're a lot better and much better than South Carolina. So you're going to want to make sure you're ready to roll for that. And looking at this match, we did what we needed to do, but still they out punted us too, 5-2, which is really bad. Or actually, no, pardon me, 5-4. Sacks allowed, where at least we got them on the sack percentage 4-2, but they got us 5-4 in terms of punts. So they punted the ball less than we did, which is a bit concerning. You're going to have to clean that up too. If you're turning the ball over multiple times, it just wears out the defense, and you can't afford that either.
No, you can't. No, you can't. And I will say when it was tied 22 apiece, when we recovered that fumble, like I felt relieved, especially when I saw Shane Beamer just having that face that said, "Oh no, oh no."
Absolutely. He knew his back was against the wall again at that point. Once they got the ball back late, knew that it was pretty much over, the look on his face was like we blew it again. And unfortunately for him, the faces he were making told it all. It's getting really, really sketch for South Carolina, and this was a game that would have helped you in major ways of going what 4-4, and now you're 3-5. And unfortunately, the sad nature is now you have to look at who are you canning next. Are you canning Shula, or are you going to start taking a look at Beamer? That's what you look at on the South Carolina side. For our side, I really think that we did a good job towards the end figuring out the right play calls to make, and the team knew that if they just make the right stops, the game was pretty much over. And it was an embarrassing look for a South Carolina fan to have to see their coach on the sideline if you didn't get to go to the game, making those really funky faces like this is it. But I mean, hey, you got to get the job done, and especially at home, and you didn't. So
Oh man, like it was so funny seeing us go against Sheila today. Like it's just like holy crap. It's pretty cool, but then at the same time, it's like, ugh, that reminds me of 03, 06. Don't remind me.
absolutely. I mean, Shula got the gig over there because they liked and trusted what he brought to the table. And unfortunately, he hasn't really done a justice for South Carolina. And I think he'll be the next one to get canned at South Carolina because they've lost their next game. But another momentum swing, too, was their O line was marked improved. I think they did a better job protecting Sellers today. Last week, I didn't think they did a great job protecting Sellers against Oklahoma. And I said that if they don't protect Sellers, he'll end up getting seriously injured. And today, they protected them well enough to where he was able to make plays not only with his arm talent, like he went through a 54-yard touchdown to Harvard, and then he had a couple plays running the ball. So
Oh, Yachty60 says Mbakwe has no business to be on the field due to a virus. Our O line needs some corn fed states, man. That O line was horrible. Oof. Our O line definitely needs to look good, that's for sure.
well, I can say this. The O line definitely needs to improve. And I said that any game that it's on the shoulders of Ty Simpson, you're going to be in trouble. Now, a lot of people told me during the game and after the game before we hopped on that it's been on Simpson the whole season, and not necessarily um the two throwaway games against Kent State and Wisconsin, where it was not really on the shoulders of Simpson because it was a complete game. Or not Kent State, against
Louisiana
ULM.
Monroe.
Yeah, Louisiana Monroe. I'm thinking of Florida State, but Kent against Louisiana Monroe and Wisconsin, two teams that just aren't that good this year. We were able to play a complete game. And I said, if it's on the shoulders of Simpson, it's going to get interesting. Now the difference is we have a quarterback, but I agree with our super chat here. Anytime your quarterback has trouble, there's a problem with the O line play, and it's exactly what it is. Now, as far as in my eyes, with Mbakwe's play today, that really kind of questioned, some of the things for me. I think what Mbakwe has to look at is what am I doing to contribute to this team? I have a chance to be just as much a factor in this game than anybody. A couple times we shot ourselves in the foot was Ryan missing that catch and Mbakwe's mistake. If those weren't to happen, it'd been a much better game. But yeah, the O line's going to have to step up. There's no way that Simpson should be taking sacks like he did. The good news is Simpson didn't turn over the ball. That's a good sign. Moving forward, if Simpson has a game where he makes a mistake or another interception, it's not going to look good. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen. But we're just going to have to see a better game from the O line. So I agree with that.
Oh yeah. Well, luckily we've got this bye week to just kind of sit and chill, figure out what we're going to work on. And I agree. I like what Yachty60 says. People say a win is a win, but in my book, if this Alabama team that showed up today will stand no chance against an elite complete team. Yeah, I agreed. I'm like, if Alabama's going against Indiana or Ohio State today, and if it's on the road, we're in trouble.
Absolutely. I'll say this. This was a trap game for sure, a major trap game. And I said it last week, and I'll say it again. You don't want to start playing these games and overlook it. It doesn't matter who you're playing in college today. You'll get exposed if you play weak. And I think this was a game that really shook the team because it shows not only does it show that hey you got things to clean up, but it also shows that you play like this you will get exposed to somebody, and that somebody will be someone with a better defense, someone that is able to stop that run, and someone that's able to pressure Simpson a lot better than some of these other teams. And South Carolina was the first true test of a pressure to the quarterback. I think they did a very good job in making Simpson in the first half a bit nervous compared to what he's been most of the season, besides Florida State. And I think that's a major mistake moving forward. Now that Simpson turned the ball over, like I said, not a chance. But what we were able to prove today is, like Yanni said, is you're going to get exposed by teams that play way better defense. And I'll say this: in Indiana and Oregon and Ohio State, teams like that, they're going to be in big trouble. And we won't see A&M this year. But let's say we pair up with Ole Miss or A&M this
Ooh.
year, whether it's the playoffs or in the SEC championship. They're going to be major tests. Why? Because they know how to pressure quarterbacks and get to the quarterback. And that's going to be a major factor moving forward. And if Bama doesn't clean that up, they're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, we better get cleaned up, like especially before LSU. I know we could beat LSU, but all the same, you don't want your team thinking, oh, well, we could beat this team for sure, and you get taken out of the blue just by surprise. Somebody's upsetting you in your own backyard. You don't want that, but at the same time, you do want to make sure you've got your guys prepared all the same. And it had me a little nervous, but our defense stepped up to the plate today. And just like looking at this game below, who would you consider your offensive player of the game today, Richie?
Today I'd have to give it back to Ty Simpson for making the plays that he did down the stretch. I just think that right now we have a good quarterback, and someone debated me that this morning. They tried to tell me on my TikTok show that they didn't think Simpson was a top quarterback, and I beg to differ. I think if we had Milrow at quarterback, we would have lost today. I really stand on that. The difference is we actually have a pocket presence quarterback, someone we didn't have besides Bryce Young. And it's a big factor when you have a guy that can actually stand in the pocket and throw. So I'd have to give it back to as an offensive player of the game to Ty Simpson. And for those of you that are just now joining us or don't know, Simpson went 24-43, another 200 plus yards game with 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think that's a big factor. Now, if you really want to, go someone else, you could say Jeremy Bernard, but I think Ty Simpson did what he needed to do. Now, was this one of his, more funkier games? Absolutely. I think compared to FSU and tonight against or this afternoon against South Carolina were his more interesting games. But other than that, without Ty Simpson, I think we would have had major trouble today. Major trouble. With Milrow as quarterback, we probably would have lost to me because Milrow wasn't a true quarterback. He was a talented athlete. And that's not gonna win you games. So I think that his 2 touchdowns, his 253 yards, and being clean with the ball and no turnovers was a step in the right direction for the team. So I'd say Ty Simpson to me.
I couldn't agree more. Like Ty Simpson is and Jeremy Bernard for me, they share that offensive MVP player of the game for Alabama. Because like seeing Jeremy Bernard stepping up when needed and seeing all those guys just step up. And I think what hurt us as well was not having Lottie Brooks. I know nobody has really talked about him, but our X factor being out for today's game, I think that hurt us as well.
Yeah, one of the things I said going forward once I found out about the injury was you need other guys that you can spread the ball to. Not just being able to throw the ball to Ryan or Jeremy, but being able to throw the ball to, Daniel Hill on a cut or slant. Being able to have Brooks in there to complement Ryan and Jeremy, and then I didn't really see any Isaiah Horton today, and that's another factor that really shot us in the foot too.
Yeah.
Was no Isaiah Horton. When Horton's been one of the major pieces to the team all season, not seeing Isaiah Horton really I question that too. I really question, what's going on now. Was he hurt? Was he limited? Who knows? But not having Isaiah Horton was a big factor too, and it's really sad because those guys are playmakers, and it would have helped out in a huge way. If you only have two guys you can really spread the ball to, and Jeremy and Ryan, it's a major problem because moving forward, what you're going to start looking at is you're going to start looking at, is this all we really have? So you need a complete team, and I think you let the bye week go through, and then you try to get these guys back for LSU.
Oh, no doubt. You got to make sure Horton's back for LSU week, and you got to make sure that our X Factor Brooks is back for LSU week because you want to get all those guys, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Man. And our defense, looking at that, who would you consider to be the player of the game on defense for today?
Again, I'd have to give it to Pierre, no question, because he's been the only guy I think that's been a good pass rusher for us. Um, I could also probably say Tim Keenan for his effort and how much he hustles, and how I've said all season once Big TK comes back, it's going to be a no-brainer. And there's a couple guys that played extremely hard today, like Bray Hubbard's played extremely hard all season. Pierre has shown improvement, and so has TK. But Pierre, to me, really was one of those guys I looked at and was like, "What, brother? You're a dark horse for this team. So you're a name that no one's talking about. That when they called on you, you've answered the deal for Womack." So I would have to say Pierre by a country mile. And it's not to say that anyone else didn't have a game, but just looking at the main factor, I could say Pierre for us for sure.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, it's just been. I was glad to see Pierre just stepping up today the way he did, and just seeing all these guys. I mean, there's just a plethora for me to just go by, and I think for me, I'm gonna have to go with the guy who basically clinched the game for us at that point. I'm gonna have to say Keon Keeley for me. Like that game clinching sack on Sellers. That was huge. That
Absolutely.
man, like it was just a fantastic finish today.
Absolutely, and it shows the resilience the team has. But like I said, you can't tap the brake. You got to keep on pushing forward and showing everybody you can be that team. But I hope it shows a little bit better against LSU at home. And I hope that the bye week gives the team a chance to really sit back. Who's someone that, if healthy, I think would be a huge factor on this team is Q Rusaw. I think if he was
Yeah.
playing, I think Q would be a big factor to the team. But unfortunately, you're not going to have him, and I don't know if you'll have him the rest of the season or not. But if you get him back, that'll be a major turning point for the team. So for those of you that don't know Q Rusaw, that's a guy that you're definitely going to want to try to get back for the playoffs.
Oh man, no doubt. I cannot wait to see him come back soon. Well, we've got some comments from Roll Tide Forever 2009. Roll Tide, what a game. And Pit Snipe Husker coming in saying, congrats, Tiders, good win. And a congrats to you too on Nebraska clinching bowl eligibility in the month of October for the first time since a little bit before TikTok, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
So I was like, that's a win for Nebraska right there. Kind of like how you saw Nebraska losing tight games with Scott Frost. Well, I think they're just constantly going to be winning close games with Matt Rule. You're going to be like, wait a minute, what? Why is it a close one against Penn State? Oh, we're going to win. Never mind. And same way with Iowa. That's what I think is going to happen. But if Nebraska can beat USC, that will be able to tell the tale for the Rule era for 2025. But that fourth year Pitt Snipe Husker, you're going to be really, really, really happy with Nebraska next year. I promise you. I promise you for sure. I know that for a fact. I know that. I believe it. I know it. Oh, yeah. Iowa's wrecking Minnesota like a chicken nugget. I mean, they're just smoking them like a chimney. I've gone as far, like, if you look at my top 10 rankings for the Big Ten for college football, I don't want to call it early, but I've got Minnesota out of my top 10, Pitt Snipe. Guess who I've got in my top 10 for the Big Ten?
Who's in your top 10?
I'll give you this. We know Nebraska is above Iowa. I've got Nebraska below USC and Washington. They're obviously below Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana. But as of right now, I've got Nebraska above Iowa and Illinois. But at that number 10 spot, I've got Northwestern as of right now. So you'll be seeing a post on that from the Voice College Football Eds account from our social media team. That's for sure.
Okay.
Oh man, it was a wild finish in Columbia, South Carolina. We got it done. We put Sheila in his place. Fortunately, we were able to get that done.